All right, I'm calling the Open Space Committee meeting, opening it at 1:05, and we are being videoed. Okay, I'm going to review the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review them online from the last meeting?
Sure. I wasn't here, so.
Okay. Any corrections? I thought it was good too. Okay, I entertain a motion to accept.
Second.
So moved. And all in favor? Aye. You're fine. Okay, and we want to talk about the ADA law?
Sure. So September 19th, we finished off our ADA assessments. From that, I pulled together, from all of the site walks that we did, some suggestions that we might want to consider putting into our action plan. I had sent it out by email before our originally scheduled meeting. But I figured it'd be probably best just to talk through them anyways. We don't need to include any of it, and we certainly don't need to include all of it. But these are just some more suggestions for our action plan to make some of these sites a little bit more ADA accessible. Let me pull up the action plan too. So I think probably what will be easiest is if I just read through them, and as I do, if we want to include it, just, shout out where we'd like to put that. I think most of these, let me just review here. I think most would fall under Goal D, which is improve the town's recreation opportunities. And then most likely would be Objective A, which is maintain and expand active recreation facilities and programs. Potentially Objective B, promote and expand passive recreation opportunities. I'd say most likely Objective C, provide recreation opportunities to a diverse range of interests and abilities. Just review the other ones. Yeah, so I think we'll probably stick in there, but if we can kind of filter out some of these into some other categories too, that might be helpful. Okay. All right, so we're going to review Douglas Common first, and the suggestions that came out of that. First one, install at least 2 accessible parking spaces with signage. Do we feel like that's an appropriate action to add? Yeah? Okay.
Well, it's handicap parking.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's see, I'll put this.
Do we need to specify that one is a van versus car?
We could write 2 accessible parking spaces, at least 1 van spot.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have to specify it, but we certainly can specify it.
Well, because I know the van is quite a bit larger than a regular spot, right, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put that down. Two accessible parking spaces. Signage. Okay. Okay, next, install an accessible path from the parking area around the common and leading up to the gazebo. I don't know if you want to have a path in that space in the gazebo, or around it. but that was just an option. It's something that's on the checklist, but we don't need to include it.
It seems like it's, you know, maybe phase down on that or something, make a little bit of a path somewhere, but, you know, rather.
Get to the gazebo, they can't get in.
Right, there's a major
Right.
steps.
But that's mainly used as a stage.
Right, so if
Mhm.
they got a little flat area, maybe bricked in path from the access over to where there's a little pad, you know, this size or something like that. 6x6 place to park a couple of chairs or something. It's not that unlevel up there, though.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty level. I think just in terms of if you're on a wheelchair, I don't know how easy it is to operate a wheelchair on grass, is the only thing I would think of. But again, we don't need to include this action if we don't think it's really feasible for that spot.
I can't remember, is there a curbing?
Yes.
Is there a lip?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'd want, that's another suggestion, is
Yeah.
install a curb cut or a cutout in the curb next to the future accessible spaces.
Yeah, I think that's a bigger priority
I
than.
Okay.
think that one could be
Yeah.
improved on, the one that's there.
Is
Okay.
there one there?
There's one there. It's real up to the top,
Oh,
right up near the little triangle.
Okay, so we'll skip the accessible path for now, and maybe that's a future thing to consider. And I'll put in install cutout in curb next to future accessible parking spaces. Ensuring 3 feet wide minimum. Okay, another suggestion for this location, install 2 ADA accessible benches with backs and arms. I do believe there are benches there. I can't remember off the top of my head if there were backs on them, but
There are backs on that.
there are backs on them, okay.
They're all dedicated by people.
Okay. On the checklists that we used for these assessments, they ask if there's arms on these, like the tables and the benches. I don't know that you necessarily need them, but it's another option to consider.
I don't have a picture of that.
I can check on the way home.
Okay, why don't we skip that one for now? And again, I don't know that it's totally necessary. If there's backs there, I mean, sure, the arms would be helpful, but. Okay, and then the last one for Douglas Common, reconstruct the stairs leading up to the gazebo and install handrails. And then potentially consider installing a ramp to the gazebo to allow wheelchair access. So if it's just mainly used as a stage,
Maybe the railings, you could just add some railings.
okay.
It needs a cap too, it's open. But
Okay.
the whole top of it, something blew off. And it's raining inside there and rotting the ceiling.
Okay.
A storm or something.
Reconstruct. Okay. Okay, moving on to Pine Needle Park. Similar to Douglas Common, install at least 2, if not more, accessible parking spaces with signage.
I'm sorry, can you say what street that's on? 'Cause
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
nobody knows, it's behind the old school, you know.
Oh, the soccer field
Yeah,
now.
Oh,
Okay.
soccer field, okay, so my question, there's a sign
VFW.
outside there that says soccer field, veterans field. Soccer something,
Yeah.
veterans field. That is the veterans field.
So
And they're,
soldiers, yeah.
they're confusing Veterans Field with what?
Soldiers
Field, so we need to get that straightened out.
So Soldiers Field is for baseball.
Baseball.
And Veterans Field is for
the
soccer.
Is the soccer one,
At the old VFW, which is
Yes.
the old two-room schoolhouse,
yes.
near the common.
Because I saw that, I'm like, oh, Veterans Field, right there, it's right there. So,
We could switch the signs at night, too.
on the assessor's designation of what this is, Pine Needle Park, I think we need to change that to,
Since no one's ever heard
Veterans
of it.
Field, yeah.
change that to Veterans Field, and same thing with Soldiers Field and getting all of these, so we all know
Right.
what we're talking about. That's homework on our end.
Okay, so that soccer field, install at least 2 accessible parking spaces with signage, and additionally install an accessible space large enough for a van. We good with that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Is there a porta potty or something there,
Okay. This one also, a suggestion to construct an accessible path of travel leading from the parking lot around the field.
too? I don't know why you suggest all the way around the field, maybe just for,
Well, just so
The
that they could
niceness
get
for
to
the-
the other
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know that it's totally necessary, but just to make the path of travel easier. But we can definitely keep that one out. And then, so if you wanted to get onto the other side.
yeah, I mean, sometimes, whatever.
And then install an ADA accessible bathroom or an ADA accessible porta potty. I think probably the porta potties are brought in by whatever clubs use the field. But
Yeah. That's really long-term.
yeah. So I don't know if
Well, there is a porta potty there now, right?
yeah, I think
Didn't
it's
they just upgrade it to a handicap?
well, I think if I remember correctly, those were brought in by the soccer club or team,
Right,
you know,
that's right,
whoever
that's
uses
what-
that.
Axman, I think they call it the Axman,
Yeah.
used to be a Douglas League or something.
So I don't know if those are there year round, and I don't know, like if another club is bringing it in, I don't know that the town could make them bring in an accessible porta potty.
Is that, it is sometimes chained off, I think, because it's a gravel pit back there too for the town,
Okay.
but farther down. So I don't know whether that they maybe, you know, they're the club, maybe they
Mhm.
restrict use of it.
Yeah, most likely. And again, you don't need to have a bathroom at the field. It's just an option. There isn't one there that's permanent, and it's not ADA accessible. So if we wanted one, we could plug it in. If not, we can cross that one off the list too.
But, but at that site, I missed a walk, so you've got the fields over here on the right, but is there another spot that is like a Pine Needle Park? It's just
It's
the,
just the field.
the way in the back is the
Gravel, I guess, or something, brush or
The brush,
whatever.
yeah. brush dump.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just on the left is a tiny little porta potty, just
Mhm.
after you get into the gate. past
Yep.
the gate.
All right, so we'll leave that one off, but if we decide to change our minds and add a bathroom there, we can do that. And then the last one, install ADA accessible seating. So potentially some benches with backs on it or tables with cutouts for wheelchairs. I think it's just a soccer field there, so most folks would probably bring their own seating. So I don't know that it's totally necessary, but that's another thing that's on the checklist.
Because if I remember, there wasn't any seating there, was there?
Yeah,
No
no seating
bleachers
at
or
all,
anything.
right. So again, we can keep that off, unless we think there's a need to put seating there. Okay. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, if I'm handicapped, I'll plan ahead.
Mumford Road, excuse me, Mumford Road Conservation Area. Let's see, this one, probably not feasible for this particular area unless more land was acquired or if parking was built into the conservation land, but consider installing signage for accessible parking space. It's that we like pulled off. There's like kind of a parking area, kind of it's just a curbed in area. So I don't know that it's really feasible for that spot, but that is an option.
Couldn't you cut a couple trees down and just, fill it in and park along the side?
I think you could. It's if you want to. I mean, that space itself, like it's stairs and then a winding trail. So,
Oh, that one, yeah, that's,
Doobie.
no, you're, okay.
Oh, am I the wrong
Mumford
one?
Road or the Manchog Road?
Mumford Road Conservation Area. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong one.
Yeah, this is the one with the boardwalk.
Yes, yeah.
At the brook.
Yes, I was reading off the wrong one. Yes, so that one, you'd have to probably take down some trees and make it a really designated spot, so I don't know if that's something that you'd want to do. But otherwise,
Or
it's just that
attractive,
parking
maybe.
on the road for the
You can't do
Wait a minute, which one are we
horses.
on?
Mumford Road.
Okay, so that one already has a couple spaces for parking.
Where we parked.
Yes, but nothing designated as
No.
an accessible
Sign.
spot.
Correct.
Right.
But the problem is, once you get there, there's no real,
Where do you enter the trail?
yeah.
Right.
There's no real trailhead. there's
Right,
no-
so
yeah.
it's probably not a feasible idea or really appropriate right now for the area. Other suggestions are to widen the trail to make sure it's at least 3 feet wide throughout. And then keeping the trail pathway clear of any obstacles or protruding tree roots. Again, probably a tall order because there's a lot of tree roots there and that's, might be a hard thing to really control. And then the last suggestion for this one was to reconstruct the boardwalk to ensure it's 3 feet wide minimum and is completely flat. I think there were like 2 different parts of the boardwalk, so they didn't really connect fully. Or like there was like a tiny little drop off, which I would assume would be difficult to maneuver in a wheelchair. Any of those suggestions do we feel like we want to include, or are they sort of a tall order for this area?
I would say anybody, I grew up with someone in a wheelchair, and we just turned it around and go backwards up. I mean, you get over curbs, and it's, 50 years ago, there weren't all those things. So, if someone's bringing one of those giant, thrones down through the forest, then they're gonna run into trouble. But if you have like a maneuverable, even now, they make them very light and streamlined to get around, so.
Okay.
And wide wheels.
Yeah.
That go under and stuff like that, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we will skip those then.
But also, if you improve a pathway, does it have to have a particular surface? Because then it's just gonna erode or it's something, the roots, like you said, and all this other stuff, so.
I don't know that it has to have, like, it doesn't necessarily need to be paved per se, but at minimum, it would have to be 3 feet wide, and it was not 3 feet wide throughout, in at least the portion we walked through.
And it's really just a little path through the woods.
Yeah. I don't know that we need to go above and beyond to make this site entirely accessible, so I'm fine not including those suggestions. Okay, moving on, Manchog Road, so that's the one with the stairs. One suggestion is to repave that parking area to make it more accessible.
Was it ever paved?
Or
It's just-
resurface
okay, it's
the
just- I think
parking
it's just
area.
sand.
Just to make it, 1, more accessible, and 2, more aware that you can park there. I think if you weren't from the town, you'd probably just drive by and think it's a a curb or,
I think both of them could use a dress up at the
Mhm.
entrance just to make it, even just a little, one piece of fencing or something like that to make it appear
A little more, yeah.
visible.
okay. Okay, this next suggestion, install at least one accessible parking space with signage. Again, this is the one where you go up the stairs and then you're kind of winding down the trail and then you're down in that open field. So I think you could add an accessible parking space there, but I don't know actually how accessible that space is without, maybe adding in a ramp in place of the stairs or next to the stairs leading up to the trail.
Elevator.
Or, yeah, or some other,
Steep ramp.
yeah, or some other alternative access point to the field, which I think would take a lot more thought
If you
to
look
come up
around
with.
behind where we parked,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's not really, I think that's private.
Yeah, right. So I don't know how feasible those are. And then the last suggestion is just to install signage along the trail to indicate the path to follow, so you're not veering off into private land.
Yeah.
All right, so that one I'll put on.
And even that was there much signage on the Mumford Road one?
There were some.
Just those little turtle or salamander, what was it, a salamander?
Conservation, yeah,
Just
I think that's
those-
conservation, but not that much.
But nothing that said go
Yeah.
this way.
Go this way or that way, or labeling, if there are separate trails in there.
The right way.
Yeah, we're like, where's the boardwalk?
Okay. All right, so that's all for Manchog. U Street Conservation Area. I think this is the one we skipped but felt was pretty similar to Mumford Road. So again, installing accessible parking, widening the trail, and then keeping the trail clear of obstacles. Again, probably a tall order
Good
for
goals.
Yes.
Another
Yeah.
day.
All right, so we'll skip those ones. Now on to Soldiers Field, which is the baseball field. Okay, install.
Really the other way around. The Soldiers Field really the baseball field, or is it the Soldiers Field?
Yes, Soldiers Field's the baseball field.
Okay, sorry.
Veterans / Pine Needle Park is the soccer field. Okay, install 3 to 4 additional accessible parking spaces with signage. Okay, we'll add that.
It's a popular place.
Install parking spaces with signage. Install benches with backs and arms. I think there were some benches there.
Yeah.
I think probably you'll want more of the picnic tables because those were not accessible. So I had suggested install 3 ADA accessible picnic tables with cutouts for wheelchairs. Soldiers. Let's see, widen all entrances to the park and fields to ensure it can be accessed by a person using a wheelchair. I think that would have to be 3 feet minimum. And then for the bathroom, Extend or reconstruct the ramp leading to the bathroom to make ADA compliant. Does that seem feasible? Okay. Okay. Install grab bars near the toilet. Install a mirror with a maximum 38 inches to bottom. So that is another one of those things that are on the checklists. So I don't know if you care if there's a mirror in there or not. There isn't currently. So if you don't care about having a mirror, then I don't think we need to specify where the mirror should go. And then last, install faucets that are operable with closed fists. So there is only one faucet that's in there, the other one's broken.
Just probably cold anyway.
Well, so there's two, one's just broken, so
Oh, yeah.
it would just be like replace that one. Okay, I'll add those. Okay, moving on to Martin Road, which is our last one. So Martin Road Recreation. So I have organized some suggestions for both the playground and both of the fields. So we'll start off with the playground. So relocate the trash cans to allow wheelchair passage. I think where they are right now, it's like really close to I think maybe a tree and the play area, so it's hard to pass through.
And the swings, yeah.
Let's do this. Road. Okay, relocate trash cans. Okay, repave or resurface the ramp. There's a ramp leading up to, if we remember, the playground area. So resurface that to allow access to the playground area by wheelchair. Probably just more maintenance to keep it clear of any debris. Install additional cutouts in the berm around the playground to allow for more access by wheelchair. I think it was really only that one spot that you could get in. So you probably want at least one other one. Install ADA accessible play equipment. Do we want to add that one in?
I didn't really assess what was there. I mean, there were some big back swings and stuff like that, but they weren't there was a couple missing or whatever.
Yeah.
No, but for a future goal, I think that,
Improve equipment.
Good idea,
Yeah.
okay. All right, let's see, install an ADA accessible bathroom or an ADA accessible porta potty. So there is a porta potty at the site, but it's on field 1 up that hill, which
it
is,
was chained off. And that's when we were there. I think there was a cable or a chain across.
Up there, but,
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
across the path to get up to there.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, a considerable
Right.
distance away from the playground anyways, so, if you had a couple of kids with you.
yeah.
So that's an option. Do we want to say yes to that? Okay.
Path, direct path over
Right,
there.
that's true, and that way it would be.
Or red, yeah.
Put it halfway in, either there or here.
Let's see. Or
Part of the reorganization.
yes. And then last, for the playground, install an ADA accessible picnic with a cutout for wheelchair, or picnic table, sorry. There is, I think, some picnic tables there, but they were not ADA accessible, so.
So I have a question about the picnic tables,
Mhm.
because you can buy a picnic table and chuck it there somewhere, but if we have another summer like this summer, you're saying go sit there and bake. So, do these come with any kind of awning or shade?
I don't know, so
Or should we
the,
say that?
the sort of- yeah, I would put that in, or provide, I mean,
With appropriate shade or?
the portion of the playground where the tables were, I do think there were some trees above it, although I don't know how well that protects from the shade, especially depending on, the way the sun hits it, or the sun's positioned.
Some kind of like a little pavilion or something.
No, I mean, I was thinking Soldiers Field too. I mean, if you could put that picnic table somewhere and it's just,
Mhm.
you're not gonna be able to sit there because it'll be so hot.
Yeah, there might be a better action of constructing a picnic area where you have that shade so that, the kids and the families can get out from the sun to have their lunch or snack or whatever. And in addition to that, have the ADA tables within there.
Aerosols.
The only sort of,
The screen, the fabric screen stuff that you could
Yeah.
put between some posts.
for the ADA tables, I forget, there's a certain height that it has to be so that you can get, the wheelchair underneath, or there's like a certain cutout for it. But in terms of the awning, I don't think it, or like an umbrella that it comes with or something, I don't know that it specifies that. It's just being able to get the wheelchair under it.
But I like your idea, maybe if we said, we need to develop like a cluster
Yeah.
where at least one table is for
Have like
handicap
one of those
access.
sail
And so,
things in the tree.
yeah, and then depending on what shade is needed, so that people can actually use the tables without.
It's encouraged to meet people there.
Yeah,
kids
right.
and
Yeah.
kids.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to the field, we'll start with the top field, that first field that we looked at. Install an accessible path from the parking lot up to and around the field. The only access to get up there, and I don't really know that I wouldn't call it ADA accessible, but it's that chained off area. And I think it was like a mix of grass and gravel leading up, which just to me seems like a terrible way for a wheelchair to
You're gonna
access
lose your
that site.
patient.
Yeah. And it was pretty steep, considering what it was meant for. So probably some regrading there, or winding it around a little bit more so that it's not as steep leading up. And then just making sure whatever surface it is, whether it's paved or, packed gravel or something, that it's maintained well enough and doesn't have, grass and other plants growing out of it.
Back to that direct path idea, you got the two fields, why not, so if you wanna make a path on the outside of the field, you should, I would maybe expand that a little bit and make a direct path to connect to the other one and.
Yeah, like a way
From field one
Yeah,
to
that could
field
be-
all
two.
around
yeah,
and
there
one
could be
down and
some
then one
things
down
to
to the parking
incorporate.
lot.
And it could be used as a path too for the little kids to play on their bikes where
Yeah, I
either
was thinking
parents
this,
are working
yeah.
here, so we can make that up.
Like a nice figure eight or something going a loop.
Multi-use path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
It
it
just
could be a
doesn't-
walking area.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel inviting.
Mhm.
Yep.
Besides the fact people complain it's isolated, but it just doesn't.
Yeah.
You get there and you're like,
If it was pretty,
You're not-
you'd like it,
you're
yeah.
not playing ball. What are you doing? Yeah.
Okay. And then, let's see, we talked about the ramp, I think, already. And then, if you remember the bleachers that are there, one of them was probably in a less desirable location. There wasn't an area for the wheelchair on that one side, and it seemed kind of wobbly anyway. So relocate the bleachers to a flat area with room for a wheelchair on both sides of the bleachers.
That's doable. I would think.
Okay. And then last section here, field 2, so that's that bottom field. Install an accessible path from the parking lot down to and around the field. So I think we sort of capture that in our idea of setting up a path around the entire property. Repave the pathway from the parking lot to the lower fields. If I remember, it's kind of a little bit disheveled there.
I don't think anything's paved up there.
I can't remember if it was paved, but it was not a flat surface to walk through. So whether it be repaving or resurface that pathway. Resurface. And then removing the rope to allow access to the lower field. I would assume when it's in use that rope is probably not there, but just making sure that it's not there so that folks can access it.
I mean, maybe they don't like people driving down there
Yeah, that might be it.
because there's no place to turn.
Or maybe even just shorten or make that pathway smaller so that a car can't get through, but wide enough that a wheelchair could. And then install an ADA accessible bathroom or porta potty. Again, the only one at that property's up on the first hill, so definitely would be really far away for somebody in a wheelchair to access. Okay. All right, so those are all the ADA suggestions. So I'll plug these into the plan. I think probably it would work best if we go through the MVP actions next. Especially we have a lot of blank spaces in our natural resources goals and objectives, and in our climate resiliency goals and objectives. So that should hopefully help fill some out a little bit.
Does anyone need a copy? Becky made a copy. I'll make you a copy. Do you want a copy of the MVP stuff?
And I'm
I'll make you
gonna
one if you want.
then I'm gonna read through each of them too. So
It doesn't matter. Do you want?
if you want
Yeah,
something to look
sure.
at, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I read all this stuff and then I'll print it before we go.
Wallace, W-A-L-L-A-C-E, and then W-A-L-L-I-S.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Who's my co-leader?
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read through the recommended actions. Some of, I think a good portion of these will apply to the open space plan. I think some other ones might be more public safety related or not as easily to fit into this plan. So I might skip over some, but if you think it applies, we can definitely go back to it. So first one, study the capacity of culverts throughout the town and create a priority list of those culverts that need resizing or upgrading to box culverts, which box culverts are the sort of more wide ones that allow for easier access to. Do we like that idea? So sort of a town-wide culvert assessment.
Okay, so how does this relate to open space?
Build the climate resiliency of the town. see-
Right, so we included a goal, which again, we can take out if we don't think it applies anymore, but we have a goal in here to build the climate resiliency of the town. And we've got 3 different objectives: reduce flooding and stormwater concerns, strengthen the awareness of extreme temperatures and drought impacts, and reduce impacts caused by winter storms and severe storms. So we definitely don't need to have these. They are related, but probably more indirectly to open space and recreation. So I guess first, do we want to keep that goal in our action plan?
How would we give it to the highway department instead?
Well, so, I mean, the second part of our exercise is to determine who the responsible parties are going to be, and that's likely not, most of these are not going to be this group, or it could be this group in partnership with the highway department, the planning department,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So I wouldn't think about that, about this group particularly doing these actions. But do we want that goal for the town's open space and recreation plan? Or do we think it's well covered in the MVP plan?
I think culverts right now, assessment of culverts. I don't think anyone near any of our recreation open space areas that would make an impact on it.
Okay.
That would have to be upgraded so it wouldn't impact that area. If there was something by one of those areas, then yes.
Why don't we step back for 1 second? Do we think any of the open space or recreation areas in town are impacted by flooding or stormwater concerns?
Yes.
Okay. Do we think they are or could be impacted by extreme temperatures or drought?
Yes.
And do we think they could be impacted by winter storms or severe storms? So like thunder, lightning,
Hurricane.
hurricane, tornado, wind? Okay, so I think they are impacted. So again, probably
Put it in.
direct or adjacently, indirectly or adjacently similar to climate resiliency. So we can include it, but if we think it's too hard of a sell or, not something that we can really work through right now, we can definitely take it out. I'm not tied to the goal, so.
No, so part of what throws me is that, so it says location, right? And then it says town-wide,
Mhm.
but then it says Causeway Street. Okay, number one, there is no Causeway Street, to my knowledge.
The causeway.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm kind of thinking what they meant, yeah.
Right. Then there's Wallace Street, which is spelled incorrectly, and North Street, which may have already been changed because they've been working on North Street right now. So, sorry, that's part of what threw me.
Okay.
So, the other part is like, if you talk about the causeway,
So-
It's devoided.
I would say if we're gonna look at the MVP plan in these actions, I would ignore the locations because the MVP plan is not specific to open space and recreation. So you're gonna look more at the hard infrastructure around the town,
That makes
stuff
sense.
near the town's buildings
Yeah.
or, it's critical infrastructure. So it's not gonna be specific to open space and recreation. But if there's culverts that are near, any of our conservation lands, any of our recreation facilities, that might be something we want to consider. Otherwise,
But that's the point of the causeway is that A, yes, it needs severe upgrading for capacity. B, it's questionable whether it's even under town management.
Okay.
And C, portion of the back, or half the back, at least, is Commonwealth property.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm just,
Yeah, it's between the association, that
Mhm.
all the property owners and the state goes through there.
but that shouldn't stop us from putting it in the plan. Yeah.
Do we,
Well, we don't have to put a specific place, it's just to consider if there's any culverts near there that would have impact on it, then that should be looked at
so,
and assessed.
assess culverts near the town's open space and recreation
Yes.
facilities? Okay.
Yeah, keep it general.
Okay.
Because the U Street, that little pull over there, that's partly wetlands.
Yeah.
And then that's Laurel, what brook is that, Laurel Brook? No, I can't remember, there's a brook right there. Right. So,
Okay. So again, I'm probably gonna skip around some of these, and a lot of this stuff we'll have to rework.
As is the brook that goes through, that Mumford Road property that, I
yeah,
thought that was the Mumford River by Ken Fraser said. It's
no,
not.
no, it feeds into the Mumford. I don't even know it has a
doesn't have a
name.
name.
No,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
no.
Okay, I think one that could be useful, develop, I'm sort of skipping down a bunch, because I think some of these aren't really applicable. Develop public education program about the risks of insect-borne diseases, especially Triple E and Lyme disease. That is one I could see applicable, at least to the recreation facilities and using the open space areas. It's where you're gonna get ticks and mosquitoes, most likely. Now we're gonna plug that in. Maybe drought. There for now. Okay. All right. Okay, do we think there, at any of our open space and recreation facilities, is there any pollution risk from runoff?
Well, the Wallem Lake Terrace community, I've seen houses submerged in water
Okay.
and wondered where their septic system was.
Okay.
But,
Long Lake, which is out of the state.
I mean, and it's the cleanest lake I know.
So the
Yeah.
action that I was considering is to perform a study to see if there's pollution from that Wallem Lake area, and then develop a bylaw to restrict fertilizer usage adjacent to surface water.
It's not fertilizer, it's surge.
Right, but more, the fancy houses around the res might have more runoff issues from pretty lawns.
Right.
There's no lawns on the terrace.
Could you make it, so, fertilizer / surge?
Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense. Because those are probably the two biggest impacts.
All right. Any tree issues at our open space and recreation facilities?
Well, the entire emphasis has been on the roads. Maybe an inventory would would make sense because for a lot of the open space, I don't think we know what we have
Okay.
in
Well,
terms
like
of trees and.
A forestry plan for
Yeah.
those conservation areas?
Yeah, the other thing that would be doing that, like the gypsy moths or all the things that.
You can almost do it
the
aerial.
woolly
by
addle
ear.
dig or the black lantern, white spotted black lantern and
It's just
Asian
an
beetle and.
onslaught. Now there's maple wilt or oak wilt. Oak wilt. Yeah, because
Natural
here it's
pests.
all about the street side, and we need to know better what the condition of some of our open space forested areas are in regards to tree health and just plant health.
Good thing for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I do scroll down a little more. There's forestry management plans. To develop and enact forestry management plans, including brush and deadwood clearing programs, and then public outreach to encourage action on private lands to reduce the fuel load in forests. Do we want to add that public outreach portion? Or leave it be if we don't think it's a huge issue?
Oh. I think public outreach is a good thing, but I'm not sure I agree that these are the options.
Okay.
You know, that control burns and I don't know.
Okay.
But I think public outreach is a good thing.
Wildfire awareness. Okay. Let's see.
Zoning should be in there. We already got that covered. Developers should consider climate projections and open space needs.
Those are really all the ones that I'm seeing that could directly relate. I mean, you can include some other ones just to fill out this area, but I think if we're looking only for stuff that's going to impact open space and recreation areas, we've probably covered it, and at least from these suggestions.
What about this climate change one about installing a local weather station? Right above open space. Well, the last three. The last three, climate change, open space, and recreation.
We can add that.
I mean, the open space is what we're doing right now.
Yes. Yeah, so that one,
It's interesting that they didn't talk about, under recreation, they didn't talk at all about, ADA compliance or options. But this is resiliency, so.
yeah, they probably didn't really dive deep into.
On the ice one above it, I hate seeing all that salt on the road.
Okay.
An alternative to salt.
That's,
Inclusive.
develop best management practices for treating roads and dealing with ice storms. And then, let's see, where we plug in the weather station. Extreme temperatures. Install local weather station.
Well, I agree with Becky too about going back to zoning, because the open space and habitat protection and everything is never a priority. It's always like an afterthought. So for climate resiliency, it needs to be a bigger priority.
Okay.
And that also goes under things like, earlier we talked about light pollution and noise pollution, and that can also, I think, go under development of regs and zoning.
Prioritize open space preservation. Move it up on the list in zoning,
Mhm.
prioritize it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, anything else from the MVP actions that we want to add, or,
But we're gonna add zoning?
so prioritize it in zoning?
Yes.
Let's see,
That's one of the tools available to us, so I think we should.
so prioritize open space, preservation in the zoning bylaw. Okay. All right.
Would that cover the not being able to clear cut everything?
Right, that was the trees we were thinking of.
Clear cutting of the trees.
Yeah, and development, yeah.
Limit developers'
Well-
slaughter of lots.
Yeah, or
Do we have that one already?
Oh,
minimize.
yeah, it's under AB.
Oh. Tree protection bylaw.
Bylaw, something.
Yes, okay.
They're cutting lots.
But supposedly the solar bylaw is coming back for review at town meeting.
Okay.
And there was a proposal to limit the amount of clear cutting that could be done without a special permit. And so I think we need, goes to not only zoning, but zoning well, maybe it would be a zoning regulation, so that you couldn't take 100 acres and just, you'd have to configure it somehow so that there was an ability for some biodiversity and some habitat to be able to continue to use the area.
Okay. Okay. All right, so now we've got that. So our next course of action is to, for all the actions we came up with, to determine what priority they are, high, medium, or low, and we can sort of define what that means to us. Determine how long we think it'll take these actions to be completed. And, just a reminder, you're not tied to this. The town isn't, okay, we gotta accomplish all this in this many years. This is just suggested, this is how long we think it will take this action to occur. And so that's short. Again, we can define them probably a couple of years, a long, 7 or more years, ongoing, et cetera, et cetera. And then additionally, we'll want to identify who the responsible party is. And I say sort of responsible very lightly. They're not, if we say the planning board or has to do this thing, they don't actually have to do it. They're just most likely the best person or group to lead that project along. think probably the best way to do this is to go down action by action, but we are at an hour, so I just want to do a time check, because this part can be pretty lengthy. We good? Okay.
I'm gonna be short. Is there any way we can, and Gordon's not here, so I'm just trying to think, is there a way that we can move it to a Google form? And then we can all rate them and see which ones float to the top
Okay.
for a discussion part, and then
Yeah.
at the next meeting, discuss if,
Yeah, what I could do, I can set us up like a survey,
right,
with each of these things, and we can rank them. Or I could just send you, what we're gonna end up happening is sort of a matrix where we
Right.
have all of these actions. So what I could do is just set that up, email it out to you all, you fill it out, and then either send it back to me and I can put them all together, or, you know, if you don't get it to me in time, bring it to the next meeting and we'll sort of verify, okay, we all got this, or 3 people got this, 2 people got this, how are we gonna compromise on that? I think that might be better than trying to do it right now, and then you can see a full action of,
You can view the whole
Right.
thing at once and kind of figure it out.
but so for that, let me just write this down too. Okay, so for that, you're gonna wanna fill out the priority, the suggested timing, and I can give some definitions for those so that we are all sort of on the same page with that. And then, responsible party. The last thing we'll have to do is the funding, but I'll do that on my own, because I'll know a bunch of different funding sources we could use.
or if we have an idea, we can.
Yes,
throw it out.
yes, for sure.
Who should do it?
So I like a priority and responsible party. What's the third?
Timing.
Time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll send it in an email to you. And then, yeah, so we'll have that together. If you can get them to me prior to, at least a week before our next meeting, then I can pull them together. And if not, we can do it at the meeting.
Now, when we've got these, where you had sent this out,
Mhm.
so, example, protect and promote local agriculture, you have 2 underneath that. So what if we think of something that we would like to throw in?
Oh, please, yeah. Well, so I think in lieu of doing that, priority timing exercise, I'm gonna read through and say where we're having, where we have big gaps, because there's somewhere where we don't have any actions at all. So I think we'd want to get those in there prior to doing this exercise. So yeah, do you have additional
I just
suggestions?
I just actually thought farmer's market, to promote your local agriculture.
Okay.
They
I
have
wrote,
farmers markets.
made a few more.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want to just take those?
Sure.
yourself?
Okay. Okay, so how about we do this? I will, so that you all can have a better idea of what it looks like, what we have based on today, other actions that we fit in, and then these as well. Let me put all that together. We'll give it, when's our next meeting gonna be? 22nd of November?
That's what Sue suggested.
Really? I guess I was looking at the last one going, October, November 1st, or yeah, so 22nd, I guess is.
That'd be the 4th Tuesday of November,
It's a few weeks away.
but that's also,
Before
yeah.
Thanksgiving. It's 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Do we wanna do the week before, the 15th?
Yeah, because there's still a week left in October. So 15th might make more sense. Can you do that? When are you leaving?
Yeah, I'll be back. And I don't know, I think we're having company from Nashville that day, but yeah, I'm not sure. We could tentatively make it. I could skip a meeting, but if it it was later in the
Company,
day.
I'll see you later.
Yeah,
I'll be back in a bit.
yeah. Um,
Do you,
Because that would be 3 weeks from today.
yeah, either the 15th or the 22nd work for me. So if, even though it's a week later, if that's going to work for more people, I'm fine with that.
I know, I can do both, either,
Yeah.
it's up to you.
Well, shall we say the 15th, and then I'll be finding out this week
Okay.
whether they're gonna squeeze
Okay.
it in.
And if they can't do it, then we'll go with the 22nd. Or if they're going to be here and you can't do it, we'll go with the 22nd. Okay. All right, so if we're going to shoot for the 15th, so maybe let me put this together in a matrix with all the other actions so that you can see what we have so far. What's today's date? 25th. All right, so maybe if I can get you this by tomorrow, so maybe take tomorrow until November 2nd to send me any additional actions. So you have a whole week to sort of, digest what's in the action plan already. Let me write this down.
Nice to make some progress before the holidays.
Second. And then, alright, so that takes us to November 2nd. And then, if you can send me your suggested actions by, or sorry, not the suggested actions, the suggested rankings of the actions, maybe by that next week, November 9th. And then I can sort of pull them all together for the 15th.
That sounds good.
Okay, send rankings. All right, so send additional actions by November 2nd, send the rankings by November 9th, and then I will have the updated action plans ready to go for the 15th. And if we end up, if you can't meet on the 15th and we have to extend, then we can push out our deadlines. That's not a problem. Okay, and we're 1 p.m. on November 15th?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All right, any questions?
About the letters and
Oh,
stuff
yes.
like that. We can talk about, why don't you email me what I need to get from Ken?
Well, so,
okay?
there shouldn't really be anything left for the letters of support just yet. So I think
We'll put them
if
on.
we can finalize our action plan at our next meeting,
Mhm.
then probably be pretty tight to do a draft by then. But maybe at least if we're gonna meet in December, we'll have a draft for you guys to review, sort of tear apart, make sure that we're representative of what this committee wants and what the town wants. And then we can send that draft as well to the planning board and the board of selectmen for their review, and that's how we'll get their letters of support. I've also seen towns, if the planning board or the select board want us to give a presentation on the plan, it'd be pretty similar to the presentation that we gave at our public forum. We would just include, the public forum in that, sort of a summary of what that is and what our action plan is. We can do that as well. You don't have to do a presentation, but if they would like it, if they prefer that over reviewing the plan, I'm happy to give a presentation at one of their meetings.
They could watch our video.
Right here, you can watch all of our videos. But I'd probably say if we want to go that route, we'd probably be shooting to do a presentation to their boards and committees either late December or sometime in January. Just to make sure that we've got our action plan finalized. Okay. So yeah, so nothing to do yet, but just think about, and if, you know, you're talking with the planning board and select board, you know,
Yeah, I wrote down when your meetings are and
Okay.
everything, so I know.
okay, great.
It's time.
Awesome.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay.
That's good.
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
All right.
We are adjourned.
2:60.